Gather around the fire tonight because the story you are about to hear comes from the Efik people of southern Nigeria. A story told beneath moonlight skies long before electric lights filled our nights. Have you ever wondered why the sun shines high above us every day and why the moon quietly follows after nightfall? What if I told you they once lived here on earth, just like us? And what if one act of generosity changed the heavens forever? Come closer, because this is that story. Long before the world became the world we know today, when rivers still whispered their oldest secrets and the forests echoed with stories waiting to be told, the sun did not travel across the sky, neither did the moon. They lived here on the earth. The sun was cheerful and generous, the kind of friend whose home was always open to visitors. Beside him was his faithful wife, the moon, whose gentle spirit brought warmth and peace wherever she went. Among all the friends the sun had, none was closer than water. The two shared a friendship that many admired. Whenever the sun wished to visit, he would gladly make the journey to water's home. They would spend hours together, talking, laughing, and enjoying each other's company. Yet, after many visits, something quietly began to trouble the sun. He noticed that although he visited water often, water had never once come to visit him. At first, he ignored the thought, but as time passed, curiosity finally overcame him. One day, with kindness in his voice, the sun asked his old friend why he had never returned even a single visit. Water smiled warmly. There was no anger in his answer, no excuse, only honesty. He explained that it was not because he did not value their friendship. In fact, he treasured it deeply. The problem was much simpler. The sun's house was far too small. Water was never alone. Wherever he traveled, countless others traveled with him. Fish of every color, tiny shimmering creatures, great river beasts, turtles, crabs, creatures yet unseen, relatives beyond counting, friends stretching farther than the eyes could see. If they all entered together, they would fill every corner of the house until there would be no room left for the sun or the moon themselves. Then water gave a gentle warning. If you truly wish me to visit, build a house large enough for all my people. Only then will I come. The sun laughed with confidence. How difficult could that be? He thanked his friend and hurried home, eager to surprise him. When he arrived, the moon welcomed him with her usual bright smile. Together, they began planning the largest house anyone had ever imagined. The very next morning, while the dew still rested gently upon the grass, the sun and the moon began their great task. This would not be an ordinary home. It had to be unlike anything the world had ever seen. Every day, they walked side by side, never growing weary. They widened the entrance so that no guest would ever struggle to come in. They raised mighty walls that seemed to touch the clouds. Strong pillars held up a broad roof, and the halls stretched so far that even the echoes seemed to lose their way. The moon carefully arranged every room with warmth and beauty, while the sun made sure there was space enough for every visitor who might one day arrive. Then the long-awaited visit began. Slowly, very slowly, water flowed towards the great house. At first, only a gentle stream slipped through the doorway. Then came schools of shimmering fish, flashing like silver beneath the sunlight. Tiny crabs scurried across the floor. Graceful turtles glided inside. Long, twisting eels followed behind them. The house remained spacious. The sun smiled proudly. The moon welcomed each new arrival with kindness. Soon the water reached their knees. Water paused. He looked up at his friend once again. Are you certain there is still enough room? Without hesitation, the sun laughed warmly. There is plenty of space. Please, come in. So Water called for more of his family. The river swelled. More fish arrived. Then larger fish. Creatures from deep rivers. Creatures from quiet lakes. Creatures no one had ever seen before. The water continued rising. Soon it reached their knees. Still, the sun refused to worry. His house was enormous. Surely it could hold everyone. As our elders often say, the man who has never crossed the river believes every stream is shallow. Water stopped once more. His voice remained calm. His warning remained gentle. Are you still certain? The sun looked around confidently. The walls still stood firm. The roof was still far above. The halls still seemed endless. He smiled. Of course. Bring everyone. No one must be left behind. Water bowed his head respectfully. If that is your wish, then so be it. And once again, the water surged forward. Water called again. This time, the great rivers answered. The house that had once echoed with cheerful laughter was now filled with the sound of rushing currents. The water climbed steadily, past their knees, past their waists, until it reached the height of a grown man's chest. Still, water stopped. Still, he gave his friend another chance. With genuine concern, he asked, was there truly room for everyone? The son looked around. The great house he had built still stood proudly. Its mighty pillars had not moved, and the roof remained high above their heads. He smiled with the same confidence he had shown from the beginning. There is still room. No guest should be turned away. Please bring the rest. The moon glanced quietly at the rising water. For the first time, her smile faded. She trusted her husband, but deep inside, she began to wonder whether Water's family was far larger than either of them had imagined. Then came another wave, not a violent one, just endless, as though every river, every lake, every stream, and every hidden spring on earth had decided to visit at once. Behind them swam creatures unlike anything the sun had ever seen. Huge catfish with whiskers as long as branches. Ancient crocodiles gliding silently through the water. Gentle manatees, graceful dolphins. Towering creatures from the deepest waters that moved like shadow beneath the surface. The house was now almost completely filled. The water rose to the sun's shoulders. The moon lifted her flowing robes to keep them dry, but it was useless. Every corner of the house was becoming a sea. Outside, the land began to disappear beneath the expanding waters. The birds flew higher into the trees. The animals climbed to the hills. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Water looked once more at his old friend. His voice carried no pride, no mockery, only the honesty with which he had spoken from the very beginning. My friend, Do you still wish for all my people to come? For a brief moment, silence settled over everything. The son finally realized the truth. But now, it was too late to turn anyone away. A promise had been made, and among true friends, a promise is not something to be broken simply because it has become difficult. The sun looked at the moon. The moon looked back at him. Together they nodded. Yes, let everyone come. As our elders say, the mouth that makes a promise must also be ready to bear its weight. And so Water welcomed the very last of his family into the great house. There was no space left, not even enough for the sun and the moon to stand. With nowhere else to go, they climbed slowly onto the roof, never imagining that even there they would not remain for long. The sun and the moon climbed onto the roof of their magnificent house, believing they would finally be safe. But Water was still coming. Not because he wished to harm, not because he wanted their house for himself. He was simply keeping his word. He had come with all his family, exactly as he had promised. The waters continued to rise. They swallowed the walls. They covered the great doorway. They reached the very roof of the house until even that disappeared beneath the endless sea. Now there was nowhere left to stand. The sun looked across the waters that stretched farther than the eye could see. The beautiful house he had built with such hope had vanished beneath the surface. Beside him, the moon remained calm, though she knew their lives on earth had come to an end. Together they looked upwards. Above them lay a vast open sky, silent, endless, and untouched by the rising waters. With no land left beneath their feet, the sun rose into the heavens. The moon followed close behind. Higher and higher they climbed, until the earth became a distant world below them. From that day onwards, they never returned to live on earth again. Instead, the sun took his place high above, bringing warmth and light to every new morning. And when his day's journey was done, the gentle moon would rise to watch over the world through the quiet hours of the night. Far below, Water remained upon the earth with his countless family, filling the rivers, lakes, streams, and mighty oceans, just as he always had. And although the sun and water no longer lived side by side as they once did, their friendship was never completely lost. Each morning, the sun still stretches his golden light across the rivers and seas, as though greeting an old friend from afar. Each night, the moon paints shimmering paths upon the water's surface, reminding us that some friendships may change with time, but they are never truly forgotten. And so the Efik people tell us that this is why the sun and the moon live high in the sky, while water remains here on the earth. Whether you believe it as history or treasure it as folklore, it carries a wisdom that has traveled through generations. It reminds us that kindness is a beautiful thing, but kindness without understanding can sometimes lead us into situations we never expected. Water was honest from the very beginning. He never hid the truth. The son's mistake was not generosity. It was believing he fully understood the size of the promise he was making. As our elders wisely say, the person who wants you before the journey is not trying to stop you. They are trying to help you arrive safely. Perhaps this is why this story has survived for centuries. It is not simply explaining why the sun and the moon live in the sky. It is reminding us to listen carefully, to honor honest counsel, and to weigh our promises with wisdom as well as kindness. And that brings us to the end of today's story. Today's lesson is this: generosity shines brightest when it is guided by wisdom. A sincere heart is a precious gift, but before making a promise, take time to understand its true weight. For the strongest friendships are built not only on kindness, but also on honesty, understanding, and trust. This has been Meet the Esekas. If this story made you think, smile, or see the world a little differently, we'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts, your favorite moments, or the lessons you took away in the comments below. We read every one of them. If you enjoy timeless folklore, legends, myths, and fairy tales from around the world, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and share it with someone who loves a good story. Until next time, keep the fire burning, keep your curiosity alive, and remember, the oldest stories often tell the deepest truths. Bye for now.